So you want to know what I thought of independence? How many of you are already panicky scared? Okay. So here we go. I'm going to dig right in. What we've done is a community assessment. And the community assessment is where we come and secret shop you. And by the way, we have done about 850 communities where we've done that. We've done this in 45 states. I just did this in Concordia about 3 weeks ago. In 3 weeks, I'll be doing the same thing in Emporia. And so we've done this in 45 states all across Canada, and we do a lot in Western Europe. So that's kind of our market area we do this. We looked at your marketing effectiveness. How was it easy to find information? Not by name of city, but by activities. Effectiveness, was it good enough to close sale? How'd you compare to your competition? Was it convenient to get information? And I'm not going to talk too much about that, but I am going to send Deb all kinds of marketing things, because today I've got a lot to cover in a couple hours. But the big deal I wanted to cover was the on-site. We looked at your signage, your gateways, your wayfinding. Those are signs pointing to things. Overall appeal of independence, critical mass, I'll explain that. Amenities like parking, restrooms, visitor information, things to see and do. We looked at all these different things. As a matter of fact, I went through a list of 65 things, and we're going to cover all of them. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to cover some. We're going to cover the ones that, by the way, this isn't about telling you everything you're doing right. It's telling you things that you could do to make it even better. Okay? And so we went through this whole list, and when we get back, there is going to be an assessment findings and suggestions report that we will be sending you. By the way, you will see suggestions. There are no recommendations here. Because Deb, nobody gave us any information. The only thing we asked for was send us your brochures. That's it. They did not say where to stay, where to eat, what to do, nothing. We came in just like any first-time visitor. And so let me tell you about the trip. I flew into Kansas City because there wasn't direct flights I was in Phoenix. There wasn't direct flights to Tulsa, so I flew into Kansas City and drove down. And I got here early Monday, late afternoon, early evening, and I had booked a stay at the Apple Tree Inn. The reason we booked it at the Apple Tree Inn is because it was #1 rated on TripAdvisor. And TripAdvisor is the most used travel website in the world now. It's bigger than Expedia, Orbitz, all of those. And so the very first thing that happened is I drove in and I went to the Apple Tree Inn and I went, yikes. Because there's not a shred of beautification anywhere. It is as stark as I've ever seen. Has little tiny windows in the hotel rooms. And I'm going, oh my gosh, what am I getting myself into? I called my assistant up and I said, this was the #1? Now, I'm being really mean. I'm being really honest here. This is the #1 hotel? And she goes, yes, it's rated #1. And I said, but it doesn't look like it's any better than a Motel 6. I mean, there's no curb appeal, there's no beautification, there's no benches, there's no chairs, there's no nothing. And then when I checked in, she said, we're putting you in the remodeled wing, or the new wing. The new wing still has the popcorn ceilings from the early 1980s. And so, and by the way, I didn't have a bad stay there. But the point is first impressions. So I want to talk about first impressions for a second. Because you know what? In real estate, curb appeal means everything. And it's true with commercial properties. I got to tell you, I accidentally found Riverside Park, and I was blown away by how beautiful it was. Now, if this was all asphalt right up to the building, I probably would have turned around and left. Think about this. This is one of your homes. Why is it that people that own residential, it'd be a lot simpler if they took out all the lawn, all the bushes, all the shrubs, and just put gravel or asphalt. Wouldn't it? You wouldn't have to maintain it. Why do you go out and mow your lawn and have to trim your lawn. And why do you trim your bushes? I mean, this takes a lot of work to do this. Why does somebody do this? Why? Pride ownership? Yeah. It makes you feel good. It makes it welcome. Then why aren't your merchants doing it? Because a hotel is supposed to be our home away from home. There we go. And so, I mean, it doesn't matter. You have some beautiful homes. There's no reason why this merchant couldn't, or this home could say, well, I don't want to take care of these bushes. I'm just going to take them all out. Let's take out the trees. I don't want to topiarium, and I don't want to do all that work. But why do they do it? Pride of ownership. And cities need to do the same thing. This is in downtown Carmel, California. That's why they do that. You want to hear a quick fact? Look at this. 90% of home sales start with a drive-by look at the property. If you've ever looked for a home, I know you've done it. You go get the book, you look at the book, you look at the address, you drive by, and from your drive-by, you determine whether you want to see the inside or not. Am I right? Then why aren't your retailers getting it? So there's my Monday night. How do you like that for a rip-roaring start? But that's the way you have to think. This applies to businesses as much as it does to residential. So I went into Apple Tree Inn. By the way, my stay's been fine there. I'm just telling you from the outside, did not have great curb appeal. And so next morning I got out and I decided what I'm going to do first is check out the area. I left the hotel and I'm driving down, I think it was Maine, and I saw a sign that pointed to a zoo. And so I thought, there's a zoo here somewhere. So I turned right and I kept driving and driving and driving and I came here. I did not find the zoo, but I did find a park. Because once you arrive here, there's no signs or anything telling you that there's a zoo anywhere. So I saw this and I went, oh my gosh. I mean, talk about a good first impression. It was amazing. I mean, this is just, I don't know if you have a garden club that does this or whatever, whether the Parks Department does it, it is stunning. I mean, of course, I had to take this picture here, and I wasn't too sure whether he just had an accident. That's one big turd. No, just kidding. And I'm not making light. It's after I took the picture, I took that and says, boy, you know what that looks like? But it's great. It was fantastic. It's a beautiful park. And you know what I really love? There's no place like this where you can actually go to church while you're playing golf. I thought that was awesome. But having this here, can you see why I started to come up with a kid's idea? This is an amazing park you have here. It is world class. You know what? The two best regional parks I've seen in the United States are in Independence and Topeka. Topeka, it's Shawnee, Lake Shawnee, if you've been there. Totally different. It's more trails and sports fields and everything. But those two, you have an amazing asset here. I was shocked that the only sign was a little sign on the highway that said zoo. Not Riverside Park. And so everything here, I mean, I just was taking pictures like crazy. I mean, talk about the stories you have to tell and everything. Now, I didn't see any interpretive signs, so I don't know what the context is of these, which is something you could add. But overall, I have no idea what this business is, but I was there for several hours, and I started thinking that's probably a restaurant. Because you know what? I know I'm going to be there for lunch. And what was really cool, I saw my body double right there on the plaza. What? Okay, there's my body double. But the point is, it's cool. But by the way, I have a feeling this is something out of a William Inge. Is that right? But I wouldn't know it. I don't see any interpretive signs or anything explaining it. These are things you could do. You need to tell the stories. You've got great stories. And so I did see him, and it's just stunning. Now, I have no clue where this train is or when or if it ever operates. Because I couldn't find it anywhere. I was there for hours. I never saw it. This is on Tuesday. Does it exist? When does it come out? You know what? Where's the sign that says that? Because you know what? If I'm a visitor and there's a sign that says, come back at 5:30, the train will be running, you know what? All of a sudden you got me spend the night. Guess what? When it comes to tourism, overnight visitors spend 4 times more than a day visitor. So if you put signs at this park guiding us around and just a little sign that says the train runs every night from 5:30 to 8:30, is that right? Because I didn't know that. Because there was nothing to bring me back. Otherwise, I would have gone back just to see it. And then I did see over here the Riverside Beach, which I thought was fantastic. I mean, this is amazing what you have here. I mean, for a town, what is your population, 10,000? It's amazing what you have. And I was just going, my gosh, you could leverage this. You know, I mean, it wasn't real busy, but it was just incredibly beautiful. And there were kids over there doing swim class. Over there, you can see them kind of in the background there. I mean, everything about Riverside Park I thought was just phenomenal, world class. You need to leverage it. And so, then I saw, wow, there's an amphitheater here. How cool is that? I walked about 20 steps and I go, oh, okay, it's not. So, you know, now I don't know if it's a sewage treatment plant or if it's a water treatment plant, but you know what? I didn't smell anything. It's fine. I mean, I just, you know, was just kidding you. But I'm still looking for the zoo because that's what I saw on the sign. So I'm walking around and all of a sudden I find the zoo. So I walk up to the bars, and there's a bunch of guys working in there, repairing or whatever they're doing. I'm assuming that's a home for a carousel. And I'm surprised it's in bars, but I don't know why. But anyway, but from the outside, doesn't it? Looks like I expected to see flying monkeys in there or something. So I'm still wandering around, have no idea where the zoo is. I have no, by the way, so the carousel, is it being restored? Will it be open this year? Where is the sign that says, our carousels being beautifully, our beautiful carousels being restored, please come back on, what is tomorrow? It's open tonight? Tonight. What is today? July 18th. Where's the signs? You know what? You do a lousy job of inviting people back and telling them you need to stick around. Because even if I'm a visitor and I see this and I can't stay till July 18th, you gave me another reason to come back to Independence. These are little things you could do for $100 that would get people to stay for dinner, would do all these things, and you're not doing it. Even this is great. Where's a reader board? Is this ever used? When? Never knew that either. Every Tuesday night. Did you all know that? Yeah? Visitors don't. All you need is a reader board that says come back every Tuesday night from Memorial Day to Labor Day. And by the way, I'm making up, I don't know what you operate. But you know what? You're not inviting us back. If you just put signs that better identified Riverside Park and all the activities there, you know what? You could probably double your tourism revenues right now. It's that easy. You know how much all that would cost? Maybe $1,000? It is beautiful. And you know what's really cool? I finally found the train. The problem is there's no way that's going to fit on those tracks. But even this, and I'm talking jest there, but even this, wouldn't it be cool if there's an interpretive sign that said this is a 19 whatever Santa Fe locomotive? And by the way, did you know this weighs as much as, rather than give them the weight of it, you ought to say, can you imagine, and do a picture of a stack of cars, like 20 cars high, 3 cars wide, that's how much that weighs. Put it in context so kids and people could understand how much one of these locomotives weighs. When it was running, there's no signs, there's no nothing. So that is the missing ingredient. I'm not saying you have to plaster the park with signs, but you know what? This could be an incredible asset to generate more revenue in Independence. By the way, you even have trails. I don't know how far they go. I don't know if they just go from one side to the other. I don't know whether there's 100 feet of trails or 20 miles of trails. I have no clue. There's no information anywhere. There's not even a brochure rack anywhere that says, here's a map of the whole park, what lays it out. Nothing. And so you have all these places, I don't know where they go. Are there miles of trails, or does it just go from one side to the other? Goes to the zoo? Great! Because I still hadn't found the zoo. And so, visitors, if you can get people to come to Independence, first thing to do is get people to stop. If you can get people to spend 2 hours, spending doubles. And then, of course, if you can get them to spend the night, it quadruples. You have enough at Riverside Park that people could drive here from Kansas City, Tulsa, because you have one of the best regional parks in America. But you know what? You're not monetizing it. And all you have to do is with some interpretive signs, helping guide us around what we call pedestrian wayfinding signs. And so I'm in my car, and I figure, well, I'm going to drive around. And so what I did is I went over and I could see the graveyard. And I figured that's probably not the zoo. And then I just saw a road going back there, and then I saw it. But I wonder how many people are never finding it, because they're not doing what I'm doing, assessing you. And so I did go to the zoo, and I was surprised it was free. That's pretty cool. You know, that's a selling point for families. I don't know of any other zoo in America that's free. So I walked in, and of course, this guy came swimming right over to me, like instantly. You know, I go, sorry, buddy, I don't have any food with me. But across the way, a kid was dropping a coin, and I'll tell you, in 2 seconds, he banded me and went right over there because he knew he was going to get fed. And so I did walk the zoo. I thought it was great, you know, and people were having a good time. I mean, the things you have here, I just kept going, my gosh, why aren't you doing a children's theme? I mean, you got the foundation here in spades. It would be easy to bring some of that in downtown to tie the two together. So you know what? It's almost lunchtime. I'm looking for a place to eat. I see places like that, it says concession house. I'm knocking on the windows. No, I could tell there's nothing going on there. But here's the other deal. Are these ever open? Yeah. When? The right hours. When? The right hours. What are the right hours? I'm there at lunchtime. It's the right hour for me. The Lions Club. But here's the point. There was probably on Tuesday, it was a beautiful day, there was probably at least 800 people at this park and zoo. Not a place for them to eat lunch. I mean, that is a shame. Lions Club should be ashamed. Or they should turn it over to high school students. Some cases, give it to somebody to go open up. It's the summer, it's July. It's the peak season. It was a beautiful day, and there's no place to eat. And there's no signs ever saying when or if it's open. Nothing. There was no place to spend money in this park. And you know what? There's probably millions of dollars to be made at the park. All you need some concessions. Heck, bring out some food trucks. They're popular now. Really, you should. And you charge them. Okay, we get 10% of your take, or it's going to cost you $200 a day to be out there. But you know what? If you had 3 or 4 food trucks out there, you'd have everybody going out to Riverside Park just for lunch. So see what I mean by the little things you could do for no money or little money that could really increase your revenues. Remember what I said earlier, that this is about importing new cash. Because if we're out there, you have to bring your lunch or you have to leave. So it's a great opportunity. And one of your top priorities for the City of Independence is developing a wayfinding system. If it wasn't for a few little brown highway signs, I would have never found Riverside Park. All I saw was the Mitchell Zoo, and I turned right, and then I found it. And it's probably your greatest asset. And so here I see it, but I only see this when I'm already out there. And by the way, I was trying to figure out how this gate works here, right here. And so, wayfinding. Wayfinding is vehicular and pedestrian signs. Never more than 5 items on a sign. They should always be decorative to fit whatever your brand is. You know, this is in Woodlands, Texas. That's a perfect sign for a place called Woodlands, isn't it? You need to do one of these systems. It should be #1 priority. Because, there you go. Wayfinding says it includes gateways and your entries, attractions, your amenities, billboards, marketing displays. We have a whole video. And Deb, I'm going to give you like 90 days access. There's a whole video there on wayfinding because I don't have time today to tell you about wayfinding. But there's a video in our library. It's like Netflix for communities. That's all about wayfinding system. It's one of your top priorities. And here's the deal about wayfinding. It is an investment, not an expense. Every city that has put in a wayfinding system has seen their retail sales and services increase by an average of 15 to 25%. Because you got to connect the dots. Because you know what, as visitors, if we're cruising through on Main Street, your highway, we have no clue what you have to offer. And wayfinding also educates your local residents what you have and where it's located. So it's something you should do. So while I'm out there, so I left there. I still haven't had lunch, by the way. So I find Elk City Lake. And so I found that out there, and I love it. And I'm going, it's a project office, not a park? I thought it was a state park. You know, whenever I see the word project, it sounds like it's a problem. That's what projects are. And so anyway, no big deal. I wouldn't change it. It's not that big a deal. But, you know, there it is, Elk City State Park. And thought it was great, went out there. And you know what I was so surprised is that this is July. July and August are probably 2 peak months of the year. Beautiful day. And I think I counted 9 RVers out there. A matter of fact, I thought, man, I got the whole brand for this state park. It is the most peaceful state park in the entire state system. You could have it all to yourself because there wasn't one single boat out on the lake, not one. Really, it was so peaceful. You could hear the birds chirp. I thought, man, if somebody wants an absolutely peaceful getaway, this is the place to come. And really, maybe it's just underutilized. Maybe it's only busy on weekends. But I'll tell you, on Tuesday, it was like, oh my gosh, why? Nobody's here. You know, and the people that were there were having a great time because they had a whole place to themselves. But a great opportunity. It's a nice asset. I don't know if it's enough to hang your brand on because there's lots of lakes in Kansas and lots of state parks. But, you know, I mean, we had a few people over here. And by the way, I didn't know, is your lake extraordinarily high? It just seemed like there was a lot of trees and stuff in the water. And so I wasn't too sure about that. But I thought it was just a beautiful state park. You know, it's got all the amenities, you know, whether it has a laundry house. It's got the kids' playground. Once again, kids got a playground there. So even if they're coming by camper, you're ready for them. So I went there. I spent probably 45 minutes just trying to get to know the park. And then I'm driving around and I see this. And so this is all about waterfowl hunters. Look at all this stuff. When you see displays like that, have you ever said, honey, could you go back to the car and grab a clipboard so I could write down some of this stuff? This is a great place for brochure distribution. So, visitor information. This is in Teton Pass. And these, you can take them out. There's like 20 there, 20 of each one. You can reach down and take them out. You need to have kiosks around. If visitors come to Riverside Park, there should be kiosks there that has brochures that could tell people what you have in downtown. See what I mean? And vice versa. You need to have kiosks around. So this is one. They have 14 of these in Teton Valley, Idaho. Moses Lake in Washington State did this. They call them, you could do way better on the graphics. They're not very well done. And they're going to add on the back brochure distribution. They call them information stations. And by the way, Kiwanis paid for it. So there you go, Kiwanis. There's a project for you. You know, in Kingsport, Tennessee, they have this one right here. They now have 4 of them. And notice it's got brochures down there. If you want your brochure in there, you pay $3 a month. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. You can see they make a few bucks a month. That's enough to keep it stocked, keep it cleaned, and to build the next one. In Beatty, Nevada, they did this. Rotary bought a kit gazebo for $12,000, gave it to the town of Beatty, and then a local merchant put it all together and built this in the inside. Notice it's got maps of Nevada, maps of California, it's close to the border, and wrapped all the way around it are brochures from restaurants, attractions, things to do. People want those brochures. So when we travel, you could do that. This is a real estate brochure. That's all it takes. We want a guide to Riverside Park, or to Elk City State Park. And so in some areas, you even do these. You can buy these little things. It's all made out of PVC pipe, and it's a portable. Notice it's got little casters on it. Sometimes during the events, you can do portable visitor information. Wherever the people are, you take the visitor information. So wouldn't that be cool right out now? This time of year, you have high school kids and volunteers manning a portable visitor information booth out at Riverside Park. And they're selling the restaurants, your shops, your lodging. They're telling them on how to get out to out to Little House on the Prairie. That's what you need to do, these kinds of things. Even like this, just these little things, this is what you need to do. And by the way, there's another video. So Deb is going to be busy watching videos. This one is all about visitor information centers. You should see it. And so I went there, and after that I thought, okay, I'm going to go find Little House on the Prairie. And because, I'd read about it in brochure, and there is this sign out here on the highway, and so it says next left. So I turn left, and this is what you're relegating a world-class attraction to? Somebody had to actually go 1.5 miles south. They had to add the 1/2 because it is more than one. And so historical site, this is the wayfinding you're giving this place? This was the basis for her entire career writing. It started in here in Kansas. By the way, I used my navigation system. It didn't take me there. And so I did follow. It did have Little House on the Prairie. There it is. It took me right there. And you know what? My navigation system right on, because this is right where it took me. And my first thought was, boy, that Engel family really knows how to build an interesting house. That's the problem with navigation systems. And by the way, this is about 1/2 mile down the road from Little House on the Prairie. So here's another suggestion. Notice we're getting through lots of suggestions here. Work with GPS mapping companies. So let me take a little side trip. 20% of people use nav systems. This is why you still need wayfinding. Here's the deal with navigation systems, whether they're on iPhones or Androids, or I have a Garmin Nuvi that I take everywhere. Only 20% use them. And you know what the difference is? Why you still need wayfinding? It's because wayfinding on your signs tells us things we might not know exist. We use navigation systems to put in things we know exist. We just need to know where they're located. So I hope that makes sense. That is not a substitute. So what you do is go to Navtech. And you're recording this so you can do it later. Navtech makes most of the maps for all these navigation systems. And they have a thing called Map Reporter. So somebody needs to go to them and say, by the way, your location for the Little House on Prairie is off by 1/2 mile. You need to correct it. And you could do that with all these. The airport, there's probably restaurants that are not listed. There's other attractions that are not listed. And so what to do is this. Get volunteers with various units. Somebody might have a TomTom. Somebody might have a Garmin. Somebody might have a built-in one. Have different people test them all. Look up the attractions, restaurants, points of interest. And then get with Navtech. All these things. Because a lot of your restaurants aren't even listed either. And then you could do that. Navtech does all the Garmin, Lowrance, and NDrive. And then on all this stuff you'll be getting in the report. Web-based applications, they handle Yahoo Maps, Bing Maps, Nokia Maps. MapQuest is all done by Navtech. And then radio, do that. Its main competitors are Google. You can see up here in the Dutch company, which is purchased by TomTom. And they provide TomTom and Apple's iOS 6. So there's a couple of different these, but I'd start with Navtech and start getting them corrected. And then it'll help you a lot. So that way you won't be getting misled like I was. So there you go. And I will give you all of those links and everything. So I did get out to Little House on the Prairie. Now, here's my challenge when I was there. I have no idea whether this house is a caretaker's house or whether it's part of the museum. There's no sign that says start here or anything. There are the signs. It's March 15th through October 31st, which I'm glad it starts in March. I'm glad it goes through October because the boomers account for 80% of all spending. You know what their peak months are? April, May, September, and October. You got to get out of the Memorial Day to Labor Day mindset. So I was glad that they're open in the shoulder seasons. Admission by donations, and then it says adults $3 or children $1. So I couldn't figure out whether it was by donation or whether there's a fee. And so, but I did go there, and there were like 3 or 4 other cars, and we're walking through the little cabins over here, you know, the replica cabin, and we're going through these buildings and everything. And one of the other couples came up to me and said, you know that house over there? I said, yeah. She goes, is that part of the museum, or is that like a caretaker, or is that like an office? I go, I don't know. And then another couple came over and they didn't know. You know what? None of us went in there because we didn't know. I find out later it has a gift shop where we could spend money. Remember, that's the benefit of tourism, is cash, not visitors. And I didn't know what else is in there. I don't know if there's additional displays in there. I have no clue, because there's nothing that says anything. I mean, so I did go in the cabin. I thought it was great. It's a good job. They do a good job of telling the story there. You know, I took a couple of photographs of it. And you know, it had pretty good significance for my wife because she read these books to our kids when they're growing up. But when you see signs like this, we know the restrooms are that way. The Prairie store, we couldn't find, it's back this way, so it's not pointing to the house. There's a hand-dug well back there. And then whatever it is here, it's got a sign over it. So we figured that this pointing to the house is off limits. See what I mean? For $20, you could fix this and get people in the house. But we didn't know. And so several visitors never made it that far. We just didn't know. There's a car parked there, so there's obviously somebody working there. I thought, that's probably their house. That was our initial impression. So what is in there? Is there interpretive displays? Can you buy the books in there? Do they have water? You can buy bottled water or drinks or anything? You remember, I'm still looking for lunch. And so we didn't know. So how much money got lost because it wasn't clearly identified that even if there's a little sign that said, yes, this home is part of the experience, please come in. Gift shop, bottled waters. I mean, it's a revenue source that's being totally missed. You see how much leakage, how much you're not getting? And I'm just barely scratching the surface. So then I'm driving around. I had no idea this existed here. Because like I said earlier, I've been working on my pilot's license and I fly a Cessna. And I knew that they were making them again and everything. But when I'm here, I had no idea whether they offer tours. No idea. I could see the planes back here, and then I could see this sign here, and it says Customer Center, Russ Meyer Boulevard. I have no idea where Russ Meyer Boulevard is. I did go down the street. I had to turn left or right. I turned right. It took me to a fence and a gate. I have no idea if they offer tours, if there's even customers, because I'm a customer, I fly Cessnas. Someday I'd like to buy one. And I thought, man, I'd like to go in there and talk to the people here. Nothing. Another lost opportunity that could be fixed for almost nothing. And they may say, you know what, we really don't want visitors here. And maybe that's the case. In that case, fine. But if you do want visitors there, you do have a customer center, but I have no idea where this is. And if I head that way, there's no signs to say it's this way, that way, whatever way. Never found it. So that was disappointing. And so, you know, then I was driving around. I'm starting to work my way back in. I do see the community college there. And I do see admissions, business. I'm not too sure. I pull into the parking lot, or what I think is the main parking lot. Beautiful, you know, it's just a nice first impression. And this is what I'm greeted with. Admission tours, I'm going, what? We got a chair up here. I don't know if that's for the guard or what. But I didn't know whether to park. And am I supposed to walk down here? I could not figure it out. You got to make things easy, because you know what people do? The number one key word of visitors in the world now is convenience. Because I went there and I went, I don't know where this goes, how far a walk it is. Seems kind of odd. I would park here and then kind of walk down around there. I mean, is the admissions on the other side of the shed here? I had no clue. And so you know what visitors do? They give up real easy and they just say one word, next, and they're gone. And that's what you have to understand. But when I saw this, that's what, I talked about the whole William Inge thing and the literary brand, and I kept going, man, maybe that's, besides kids and family, maybe that's what you could do. It reminded me of Ashland, Oregon a lot. And then I saw this on an older school. I imagine this used to be a school. And we got Washington, we got Longfellow there. And I thought, there must be a lot of literary here somewhere. But I wanted to show you a little side trip, and I'll do this quick. Anybody here ever heard of Ashland, Oregon? Yes. What do you know them for? Shakespeare. Population is just 23,000, so I know it's bigger than you. Claim to fame, it's a dying timber industry, seasonal tourism, and they want to be more than a pit stop on Interstate 5, which basically goes from Vancouver, BC, through Seattle and Portland, all the way down to Tijuana, Mexico, through California. They're the home of the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. By the way, they are 300 miles south of Portland and 300 miles north of Sacramento. They're not like you where you have big population centers within a couple-hour drive. They're in the middle of nowhere. The biggest city is Medford, population of 40,000. It's 10 miles away. That's it. There's nothing there. There's downtown. There's Interstate 5. And it's not like they're right on the freeway. They're several miles off the freeway. But you know what? In 1960s, they built this Elizabethan stage. This was all lawn area. People sat on the lawn. They added these chairs later. It's an outdoor stage. Then, in 1970, they added another theater like this called the Angus Bomer Theater. He's the one who started this whole Shakespeare Festival. Then, a few years later, they added this pavilion. Here's that outdoor stage that used to sit on the lawn here. Now they've got it full of chairs, and now they built all these chairs up around it. And you know, it's pretty phenomenal. So that's 2 theaters. Then, not that long ago, they added the 3rd one. All of this is on just 3 acres. It's right smack downtown. And they've got, there's one, you know, they've got all these places everywhere. And it's all in 3 acres, and it's all right downtown. All of these theaters and practice recital areas and everything. And they even have a little green show stage outside. And so that's their 4th little theater where they bring in chorals or they bring in bands and different musicians. But you know what? Look what Time Magazine, one of America's top 5 regional theaters. And by the way, they do 11 productions a year. Only 4 are Shakespeare, and they're modernized. And so look at this. They have 2,000 seats. They sell 90 to 96% of their seats year-round, and it operates 9 months of the year, 6 days a week. 88% return every year, every other year, because they switch the plays around. They're a different set of plays. And look at this. They have 125,000 annual visitors, attendees, excuse me. You may say, well, whoop-de-doo, we do more visitation than that in Independence. I just wanted to show you that it's not about how many visitors you get. It's how long you get them to stay. Remember, 88% of these people come back every year. The average stay is 4 nights. That is successful tourism. Look at that. They had travel 125 miles or more just to go to the Shakespeare Festival. And guess what? Its budget is $27 million a year. This was a dying timber town. How would you like to have that in your town? They have 300 full-time year-round employees. Look at that. 78% of that income comes from ticket sales. Look at the economic impact. $168 million a year. How would you like to have that in Independence? You could. You just have to find your focus. And by the way, the reason I brought this whole thing up, because this is the Ashland Springs Hotel. This, in the 70s, had pigeons living in it. It was a nightmare. And so I thought, wow, if you did something with this literary, if you did something with these performing arts, you know, if you did something here, maybe hotels like this could just be outstanding. And I don't know what it's like inside. It looks like a nice place, quite frankly. I don't know if the rooms are dated. I don't even know if it operates as a hotel. It doesn't? But you know what? Neither did the Ashland Springs. See what I mean? When you have a focus and you start bringing people here, places like this could be a gem. That's what we're talking about. And by the way, it's the place to live, start a business, attracting young entrepreneurs from around the world. They have nothing to do with Shakespeare. They're there because it's a creative atmosphere. By the way, they pay more to live in Ashland and make less, but it's worth it. No, I'm not saying that's what you want to do, but it's worth it. They've got a huge young population now there. So, I'm driving around and I do see Welcome to Independence signs, and I do see this, and I thought this was great. But right here, this is on Main Street, west side of Main Street. You should probably add to this sign, downtown ahead 2.5 miles. And here's why. Because when you first come in to downtown Independence, you're going to see dollar stores, you're going to see car washes, you're going to see industrial stuff. If you say 2.5 miles, you know what? By the time I was starting to get into downtown, I was kind of giving up. So what you do is when you add, like on a sign like this, historic downtown ahead 2.5 miles or whatever, I think it's 2.5 miles, what you're doing is telling people, don't judge us yet, wait till you get there. And that's the message you need to do. Even halfway, down another mile, you say, historic downtown, historic Penn Avenue, Pennsylvania Avenue. That's what I would do. Ahead 1 mile, ahead 0.5 mile. Otherwise, by the time we get there, we've already written you off, because we're coming through the industrial areas. Make sense? And so that's something you could do. But I thought they're nice signs. I thought they were great. So then I'm driving around and I run into this, the Independence Country Club. And I figure, all right, here we go. We finally got golf. So I see the sign there, and it does say next right. And so I pull in, and Independence Country Club, pull in there, and I'm going, I cannot find the golf clubhouse. And so I don't know whether, and it looks like it was in the 70s, and it looks like this is vacant now. Is there a restaurant? Is there anything in here? It is vacant? No. It's not? What's in here? Does anybody know? There is a restaurant there? Is it open to the public, or is it just private?
No, it's a private club.
Oh, it's a private club. Okay. And is the golf private? Okay. In that case, fine. Just leave it the way it is. But if they want public play, if they want people to come into the restaurant, then by all means tell people. If you don't, then fine. But I didn't know, and so I assumed it was probably, if it is, then promote it. If not, great, you're fine just the way it is. And we'll stay away. Now, I travel 250 days a year.
It's what we do, stay away.
We do, okay. And so I travel 250 days a year, and it's amazing that I always find something I have never seen before. And only in Independence, Kansas, have I found a business that specializes in abandoned cars. And I thought, wow, I've never seen anybody that actually goes collect cars, parks them here, and then just lets them be abandoned. And so I was just pretty amazed. I don't really have a suggestion. I don't know what to do. But it is apparently an operating business, because there was about 20 dogs back in here. And then it says vehicles in the lot are not for sale. I guess I'm going, when do they ever move? Or are they just going to be there till hell freezes over? I mean, here's like a 1984 Porsche 924. I'm going, oh my gosh, I have a friend that's looking for one of these to restore, but I better not park here. I better not inquire. So anyway, I did see that. That was my day 2, and by the way, I never got lunch. So I came back into downtown, went to the hotel, walked around, and I got back at about 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night, and I couldn't find a restaurant open. Because I did find the Chinese restaurant, but I'm always reluctant to eat in a restaurant that has absolutely 0 windows. And then some of the other ones I couldn't tell. Big Cheese was open. Is that what it is? What is it? Big Cheese Pizza was open, but I didn't want to eat pizza that late at night. And so, but I struggle a little bit with, I want to find more places to eat. It wasn't Cherry Berry's more dessert, and so that was struggling. So anyway, I did manage to survive. I was fine. And I did get dinner. And then, so now the next day is. And so one of the things we're going to do, first, before I really get into downtown, I had some loose ends to tie up. So I started to look for the Landon House. I saw it in a brochure, and it's 200 South 8th Street. So I find this house, but it's 206. So, and I went down to the next house, but it starts getting to the 300 block, 400 block. And so I can't figure out, is this the Landon House? Or did it used to be in the lot right here? By the way, see this cool shop here? I thought this would be a cool glassblower studio. Really? It'd be cool. But I didn't, and then the next house down here does not have an address on it. Is one of these houses the Landon House? Where is it? But these are 206 and it's 200. Aren't the even numbers on the same side, like 0, 2, 4, 6, 8? Should be. See, I didn't even look across the street because, well, if this is 206, it has to be on this side of the street. Never found it. But I did find this one. And, and that's Astra's place. And I thought, well, maybe they just got the address wrong. I could not figure it out. So here's the point. Don't promote something if you're not going to put an interpretive sign in the lawn or anything. And, because I didn't see it. And I thought, well, even numbers on one side of the street. Is Independence the only place in the country where you have odd and even on both sides? Okay. Just checking. Yeah. So I also wanted to find the William Inge Boyhood Home. There's the address. So I can't figure out whether it is this house, because there's no addresses on the house. Or is it this house? Or is it across the street in this house? Or was he sometime in the doghouse? Was this the house? I could not find it. And by the way, I was taking a picture of this house, this house, this house, and I could see there was a lady at the end of the street laughing at me because I'm taking pictures of every house. Because there's no interpretive signs. There's nothing that says where it is. Now, in the brochure, there's a little tiny picture, and I think it's this house. Is this it? But see, how is anybody supposed to know? And by the way, if the people that live here don't want to put Boyhood Home at William Inge, right here on a little sign or something, you know what? Then don't promote it. If we come into the Celebrity Hall of Fame and then we see where he is, then maybe we'll go and do it. But I was just trying to go down your brochures and everything, but you know what? If you don't make it easy, people end up frustrated. So that's the point. So I'm now coming into downtown. I come from the tourism industry. But 50% of our work is downtowns. And so what we did, and the reason is the number one activity of visitors in the world, shopping, dining, and entertainment, pedestrian-friendly setting. That's not why we come, but it's the number one activity once we're here. And by the way, that is where 80% of non-lodging tourism spending takes place. 80%. So we knew that downtowns had to be joined at the hip with tourism. We went out and found 400 successful downtowns and downtown districts in the U.S. and Canada. One of them was Lawrence, Kansas. Probably the best downtown in the state. And we found the 20 most common ingredients that led to their success. And the biggest challenge was thinking that beautification and streetscapes would make their downtown sing. Not true. It's what's in the buildings that makes you a destination. Those are important, but they're not everything. And by the way, here you go. The heart and soul of every community besides its people is its downtown. When site selectors come into Independence, you know what they do? They go right downtown, and the health of your downtown economically is the health of the community. Here's the next thing. If you don't hang out in your downtown, neither will visitors. Every single person I asked, where do you go to hang out? Named a different city. One person mentioned Riverside Park, and nobody else mentioned Independence. If you don't hang out in downtown, neither will visitors. And there you go. Number one activity of visitors, and there is where that spending takes place. And so absolutely, downtowns and tours should be joined to the hip, and they are here, which is awesome. Really great. And so that's where I asked them those questions. And I'll bet you have a lot of leakage, because when I ask people, where do you do your major shopping? It was always Bartlesville, it was always Tulsa, it was always somewhere else. That means you have a lot of leakage. But you got to start with local spending. And then finally, it starts in downtown. By the way, downtowns are back. People want downtowns more than ever before. How many of you remember Petula Clark, 1964, Downtown? Remember that song? Raise your hands. Go ahead. Okay, great. You just dated yourselves. But it's back. But look at this. I finally went out there and said, okay, I got to figure out how many people live here, because you say 10,000. Look at this. Within a 20-mile radius of your downtown, you have 44,000 people live here. Wouldn't it be cool if those 44,000 people were hanging around in downtown Independence, not in Coffeyville or somewhere else? Wouldn't that be cool? You could do it. You have bones to do this. That's your market right there. It's not 10,000 residents. It's 44,000 people. Before you get into tourism, get these people to hang net downtown, and guess what? You will be. Can you imagine that? If these people, heck, if half these people hung out in your downtown, you'd be doing great. But look at this number. Within a 50-mile radius, that's like an hour drive. You have 176,000 people. And then when you go out, you get 2.3 million, because now you got Tulsa. You got Wichita. I mean, 100 miles. That is your potential. And by the way, here's the map of those places. There you go, 50 miles. We just barely get over the state line. And then you go out there, or that 20 miles, excuse me, and there's your 50 miles. And there you get Bartlesville there. But it's so amazing that how much of this money is earned in Kansas is not even being spent in your state. That's a shame. And so what we did is we put together a video series called The 20 Ingredients of Outstanding Downtown, and that's available for you. It's a 3-part series. I'm going to touch on a few of them today, but I would encourage you to see that. So, 2-hour parking, good way to kill the downtown. I have no idea why you have 2-hour parking in your downtown. Is it really that busy? I've been here all week, and I've never seen it that busy. You're all over the place. I went to a place that had 10-minute parking. Another place had 20-minute parking. Another place had like 30-minute parking. Some places have 2-hour parking. I cannot figure out downtown Independence. Stop it. You need 4-hour parking. The average person in a downtown will spend 4 hours. If you want me to have lunch downtown, go visit the Celebrity Hall of Fame, go over to the museum, come back into Rexall to the soda fountain, you know what? You're chasing me out of town after 2 hours. That's a shame. You know what the rationale is? We cannot get our merchants to park somewhere else, so we're going to punish our customers instead. Get rid of the 2-hour parking. Make it 4 hours. If you insist on 2-hour parking, then you better tell me where I can park all day. Because I was afraid when I was walking downtown. You know, for me, I'm staying at the Apple Tree Inn. I just left my car there. And it was fine. But what about other visitors that might be staying out at Microtel or somewhere else? And they're relegated to 2-hour parking downtown. So if you do that, you know, parking all day, you should say 2-hour parking like they did here. And then they put, I know somebody stuck a sticker over it, but then they put all day parking just down a block. So that's number one suggestion you could do. You know, and so I just said, if you're going to do all of these things downtown, there's no way I'm going to do it in 2 hours. And there's no way I'm going to go back to my car, move my car down 3 spaces, get back out, and then continue. You know what we do? We just leave. And you're losing money. And by the way, angle-in parking does increase retail sales, and that's great you have it. I'm glad you do that, because that's good. The other thing that you need to do downtown is have your visitor information open year-round. So right here, so Deb, did you in the chamber, did people see the chamber see me out there taking pictures of the chamber office? That's why she's been nervous. You don't have any 24-hour visitor information. And so this is North Platte, Nebraska. They had a local guy build this. It was about $250. It's a box that the lid picks up. Here it is a little closer. Here it is really close. And in it, they had him build this for like full-size magazines. You can put in brochures. 24 hours, you need to mount one of those outside the Chamber of Commerce. Matter of fact, you need to have a couple of kiosks somewhere downtown. Because here's the scoop. When people, before they arrive, only 32% of the time do they ever use brochures. But you know, once they get here, it jumps to 81%. Once we get to Independence, give us the brochures. Because I never found the brochures because I did not go in the Visitor Information Center. The reason I didn't, because only 5% of visitors go into Visitor Information Centers. I was pretending like I'm the other 95%. Now, I had brochures because I had Dad send them to me. But most visitors don't. And so they have no idea about Riverside Park. They have no idea even about Little House on the Prairie. They have no idea about any of that. So for a couple $100, you could do that. One of my favorite kiosks is in Cape May, New Jersey. It's a town of 1,500. And this is the kiosk they built. Isn't that cute? By the way, it says, "Welcome friends old and new, linger here a day or two." It's just really charming. And I've emailed them and asked them, how much did this thing cost? Because I think it's really cool. And they get snow and wind and everything there. But notice it's got all the brochures. It's got a map in it. It's really a cool little, and I thought, man, if you could have 2 or 3 of these in your downtown, you would really increase your visitor spending, because now we can grab your brochures, your menu items, all of those different things. And I'm guessing this probably cost, maybe $8,000 to $10,000. But you know what? You could build a kiosk for $2,500 that has brochure distribution. But it's something you could do. I think you should have 5 of them. Because even for visitors coming into Cessna outside their building, and I'm not talking about visitors like me, I'm talking about their guests, that they have. And I'm sure they have lots of people, dealers and other people coming into them. I think you ought to have these in 5 locations, so visitor information there, plus the one mounted on the chamber wall. I mean, here would be a good location for one, don't you think? Because we've got a little map, but there's still no brochure distribution. And so that's something you could do. And you should do a downtown map that's actually a brochure we could tape that would also do your historical homes, the sculptures, attractions. Right now you have them all in separate brochures. I think you could do one brochure that would be a fantastic guide to Independence. So I then went to the Historical Museum, and it's a great building, looks great. I have no idea what VVAE is. What is that? Does anybody know? What is it?
Verde Green Valley Art Exhibit.
Okay. And how is any visitor supposed to know that? So on your signs, and maybe this is just for them, but if this art exhibit is meant for visitors, I have no idea what VVAE stands for. So see what I mean? For just a few dollars, or maybe you don't have enough letters. That's a long name, by the way. I don't know how you fit that all in one line. But even if it just said art exhibit, would be pretty cool. So I did go inside. By the way, I love the sculptures everywhere downtown. And I did see the Mickey Mantle display, but I had no clue. Because in the museum, it's got all the books and everything, but there was nothing that really says, so what's his tie here? And I understand, I did read later that he played his first year or whatever here in Independence. But there's nothing here that says that. So the challenge is, with a lot of museums, we show lots of artifacts and collections, but we don't have any context for it. I saw this area here, and are there ever performances in here? Are there? Occasionally? You don't even know? What's that?
Celebrity Hall of Fame has the
Okay, I saw the Celebrity Hall of Fame, but this is the Historical Museum. I just saw the chairs and I thought, well, I wonder if they do lectures. I wonder if they do music. I wonder if they do, and if so, you should tell us. Well, I did see that the musicians are fenced off from people throwing things at them, but no, I got it. I got it. It's just so guests won't go up there and start playing the instruments. I'm just kidding you. But if there's something that goes on there, that'd be cool to know. Here's some museum notes. Avoid the following words. The average museum experience in the United States lasts 20 minutes. because collections, artifacts, and displays are boring. And if you ever want to get the younger people involved in the museum and historical attractions, you got to tell stories. You know, concentrate on stories that bring them back to life. There you go, 20 or 40 minutes. If you can captivate the visitor for 2 hours and must learn to stories, not just display artifacts with facts and figures. And you know what? We don't care who donated our items. I know it's important locally, but to a visitor, I don't care. So for instance, Chucky here. Oh, no, that's not. I'm kidding. But here it says, doll from the 1900, belonged to Catherine, Kate's Caston, refurbished by Pat Clark, given and donated by. You know what would be more fascinating is this doll was manufactured between 1895 and 1905. Only 100,000 of them were ever made. And at the time, they cost 50 cents. And making all this up, by the way. They cost 50 cents, and the children would cherish them. The doll, the outfit that she was wearing was handmade by, see, all it is stuff with who donated it. There's no context. There's no story. Even like this, we see a mom here, we see a girl in bassinet crying, and we see the little kids and stuff, but there's no context of what year this was. These bassinets might have sold for a couple of dollars. It's this old. There's no stories. So what happens is in museums, we collect things, but we're not telling any stories. So let me give you a couple of examples. I was working in Elko, Nevada, the Northeastern Nevada Museum, and they had 2 wings. One is the wildlife wing, and then they have the historical wing. So in the wildlife wing, they didn't just show stuffed animals. They told the story of how a lion kills a wildebeest, how it drives it down on its knees, on its knuckles, so it can't kick because the hooves are really sharp. I was sitting there glued to the story. Some of them were a little gruesome, but they told the story. They didn't just say, here's a lion from, the Sahara Desert. And, they told real stories. What was interesting, I went to this museum and the fee was $6. I went, whoa, that's pretty steep for a local museum. So I went in, paid the $6, and she handed me a receipt and said, by the way, hang on your receipt because it's good for all day. I'm going, yeah, right. I'll be here for 20 minutes, But it has in-out privileges. But I spent 2 hours in the wildlife wing, which was about this size of the rest of this room, from this post over this way. That's all the bigger it was. I was 2 hours in there. But then they told the story over in the historical wing. In the West, marking a beef with a red-hot iron is like placing a 4-footed stake under lock and key. The brand shows legal ownership. Nevada has almost 3,500 registered brands. Occasionally, a career in the cattle business was launched by illegally altering a brand, but the rustler's shenanigans usually were halted at the end of a swinging rope. They went on to tell the story of this rancher who had all of his cattle down in this valley. And it was all fenced in, but the cattle were disappearing. The gates were closed. The cattle couldn't open and close the gates. And there was no dead animals anywhere, so it couldn't have been wildlife getting in at them. And it was kind of in the Nevada desert, and there was no human footprints, so they obviously weren't being rustled. They could not figure why the cattle were disappearing. So finally, the rancher had 2 ranch hands. He had them spend the night out there on a hill overlooking the valley. The first night, nothing happened. The second night, nothing happened. The third night, about 4 or 5 in the morning, the light was just barely coming up. They could hear somebody was down there with the cattle. They could hear them whooping and hollering. So they got out of their sleeping bags, grabbed their guns, went running down the hill, and there they caught Crazy Tex Hazelwood wearing these shoes so he wouldn't get caught stealing the cattle. I spent 6 hours in that museum. And yes, I left to go eat lunch and came back. That is the power of the stories. And now I'm going to tell you another story. How many of you have been here? It is, well, let me just tell you the story. I had no clue what the orphan train is. So I walk up, and first of all, there's these little kids. I love them. You have them here, they have them there. And look what I said. This is not about the train, it's about the kids. Before you even walk in, you realize that this is about children. By the way, every one of these, Millie, her story, her physical story is inside this museum. So it's not just a sculpture. But what happened is this museum is no bigger than probably from these posts over. That's all the bigger it is. 1/3 the size of this room. A growing problem. Between 1816 and 1920, 25 million immigrants arrived through boat. They tell you what happened. Look at this. So I went there. When my wife and I left, we were both in tears. When you evoke emotion like that, we will never forget you. This museum, I mean, it's all these displays and everything, but they did such an amazing job of telling the stories that we were just captivated. They don't just have little photos. They take the photos and they blow them up. Look at these little kids. These are orphans. They don't even have a home. It's snow. It's in the streets in New York City. They did such a good job blowing the pictures up. They let the pictures tell the story. And then they will tell you life on the streets. Imagine these little kids trying to stay alive in the streets when it's sub-zero temperatures. You know, I mean, look at this. It isn't about a bunch of stuff. Look at all the kids on the train arriving, how they had to place them out. This was the beginning of the foster care system across the United States. And they go through and tell you about how this all worked and how this all started. But this one here, this really gets me, and I'm going to read it to you. People expect more of an orphan child than they do of their own. The faults seem greater, are magnified greater. I was sent to take away a boy for the awful crime of going to the cellar and sticking his fingers in some jelly. Would they send away their own child for that? Those who take a child and keep him or her will have a great reward. It is the rearing of a monument far greater than that made from marble or granite. I mean, it got me to the core. And you know, they have these pictures, that's in a window, so it's almost kind of a ghostly image. And they will tell you about this brother and sister right here. They tell their story. You know, at the age of 19, in 1985, at the age of 75, she retired. It's telling about Millie. She was known, I think this is the one that was about Millie. And they talk about here the many lessons of life that she taught her family will live on in perpetuity along with her memory. And she had these grandchildren, how these people lived. They told the stories. And this is what I wrote to them. This is one of the most important and also one of the very best historical museums of any size in North America. And I've been in thousands. Hands down, the National Orphan Train Museum was worth the drive from Kansas City or anywhere else for that matter, period. That is the power of the story. That's what you need to do. Because I mean, you know what? If you've never been there, you should go there. It's incredible. So, in your museum, I saw this. A little big man, Dustin Hoffman. This is actually what he wore. I wish there was more context to it. I know that Jim Halsey donated it, and I thought that was really cool, but I'd like to know more about the story. But there was one story that got me. And downstairs is this log cabin. And right here is a handwritten letter right there, and then they typed it out so it's easier to read. And I read that letter and it was cool about these immigrants here. But there's one part I really, really thought was great. Here it is. In October of 1869, some fly-by-nights started a village called Haytown several miles south of us. They gave it the high-toned name of Independence, but it won't last long. That's pretty cool. You showed them, didn't you? Those are the stories we're looking for. That's fun. Did you know that was even there? See? But I had to dig. How many people never even make it downstairs? So I also went over to the Kansas Celebrity Hall of Fame. Mike's going, uh-oh. And it's great because, you know, I started my career in the concert industry. As a matter of fact, I used to work for Concerts West, which is the largest concert company in the world at the time. I did tour management for Fleetwood Mac, the Eagles, Doobie Brothers, Chicago, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Am I dating myself yet? And here's the big giveaway. I managed the tour of the Bee Gees, Saturday Night Fever. Anybody guess what years? Yes, you see. Saturday Night Fever came out in 1978, our tour. I worked in the concert in 78, 79, 80, and 81. And I had to manage those tours. And so I knew who Jim Halsey was because that was our contact with a lot of these entertainers. And so I had special interest there. Now, I'm not sure that the general public would know who he is. And so I think telling the stories, even there, once again, it's more about the stories. I could tell you stories that technically I shouldn't even tell. Like, for instance, you know what got me out of the concert industry? Fleetwood Mac. I thought they were going to kill each other. They hate each other. Even now, Lindsey Buckingham has no problem saying we've never had any business being in a band together. And I used to have to post guards outside the rooms to keep them from each other. And yes, they're touring now. They need the money. And so, I mean, there's, and I don't want to tell all negative stories because I'll tell you one more. When I was managing the Saturday Night, the Saturday Night Fever album was the best-selling album in history for decades. And yet, when they went on the road, the Bee Gees went on the road with their families. I mean, they had 6 top 10 songs on the charts at the very same time. Staying Alive, remember it? You know all those songs. They just were raking in the money like you can't believe. But did you know before they went out on stage, every single time, they sat together as a family and said a prayer? How cool is that? See, there's got to be stories. Good ones. I mean, the artisans, the people that are the celebrities here don't want negative things said about them. But once again, you can tell stories. I think it's a great start. By the way, I emailed our office and asked everybody if they knew who William Inge was. They didn't. Not one single person. And then I said, have you ever heard of Splendor in the Grass, Bus Stop, The Dark at the Top of the Stairs? And they hadn't heard of Dark at the Top of the Stairs. They said, oh yeah, Bus Stop, that's the Marilyn Monroe movie, right? I said, here's the playwright. It took me 3 brochures to find out, to connect him to those. And so, once again, it's a great start. I think the displays are great, but we want stories. So just remember that, as many stories. And by the way, even little video stories would be great. If you put a little flat monitor, an iPad or somewhere where people touch it, and it'll be the artist telling about it. All those kinds of things could be great. So I did do that, and then I went to the Science and Technology Center. I had no clue what it was. I thought it was a computer repair shop. I mean, isn't that what it looks like? And so I went technology, science, and then I thought, well, maybe it's part of the community college. And so I couldn't quite figure out what it was, so I decided I better go in anyway. And then I realized it was about kids. But outside, it should be whimsical. It should be fun. It should be, you know what I mean? It should be all about kids. And the signs don't look like it. The exterior doesn't look like it. The name doesn't look like it. You know what I would want them to do? I want them to go to Topeka and look at the Topeka Children's Discovery Center. It's really nice. Now, they have the right idea in here. I'm telling you, it said it's been open since 1992. I don't think there was anything in there that was newer than 1975. It looks very, very, very dated. The idea is fantastic because everything in there is hands-on. I went in there and actually learned something. I had Amy, who had a doctor's appointment, gave me the tour, and she says, do you know why this is doing this? I go, no. She explained it to me. And so I learned stuff in there. It's pretty cool, but it needs to be brought up. If you decide to go with a children's theme, this could be a great asset if you could modernize it and, make it so it's not kind of second, third world inside. But the dinosaur certainly gravitated me. I sent that to when I have 3 little grandkids. I sent this to them and said, man, I almost got attacked. And they thought that was pretty funny. But you know what? Those are social media. Beautification pays big rewards. This is in Jonesboro, Tennessee in October. Does it make you want to go inside that antique store? This is in near Gatlinburg, Tennessee. This was taken in December. Everything you see is dried. These are all dried flowers, silk flowers, everything. Doesn't it make you want to go inside? Yet in your downtown, I don't think I've ever seen a town that is as stark and naked as yours is. And I don't know why. You've got the wide sidewalks. You've got, everything. I thought this was cool. This is a cake gallery. You're not obviously going to put cakes here, but I thought it was fun because with dolls, telling the story of kids and celebration and everything. But once again, on the exterior, there's no pots, no planters, really not much anything. When I was first here, I thought that this was closed. I didn't think it was even a business. I mean, there's a bench here, but there's not one hanging basket, no pot, no planter, no open sign, nothing. And then when I did see this, I went, oh, okay, now I see. They must be in business. Otherwise, these wouldn't be up. That was my only telltale. You have vacancies. So if you have a business, you better make it obvious that you're still in business. And that's what beautification does. And I know you just got done with, what was the big event that just ended last week? Oh, Astra. But this is day before Astra. There's trash all over, cigarette butts all over downtown. You're not giving me a very good first impression. Remember, this is where 80% of the spending takes place. And there's no beautification anywhere, hardly anywhere. Look at that. That's a town of 2,000. There's no reason why you guys can't do that. Look at this. These little window boxes. In the winter, they can put these up for snow removal. And by the way, the deer can't eat these, but they will munch on those. They walk around their downtown. But why aren't your merchants doing this? That little town, by the way, in October does a Scarecrow Festival. There's Charles and Camilla. And people come from everywhere. They're all over downtown. They're really cool. It's a Scarecrow Festival. It lasts the whole month. And they even have, like, the fire department does their own one, and it shows a couple of EMTs with a stretcher and somebody laying on the stretcher with their, because it's Halloween, and I mean, they just had all kinds of them, and the place was packed. But besides beautification plants, it's also extending window displays to exterior spaces. Like this merchant does every morning. I went in and said, do you ever get stuff stolen out of here? She goes, yeah, every once in a while something old. But I don't put it, she goes, I don't put expensive things in there. I'm just trying to tease people to come inside. This lady does this every single morning. She goes and sets up this display. Doesn't it make you want to go inside? It says we're open and welcome. In Fredericksburg, Texas, population is about 10,000, about your size. Their merchants all got together. They pitched in whatever they could afford. Some people pitched in $20. Some people pitched in $200. They went over to a nursery and said, at the end of October, we'll take everything you got that you haven't been able to sell. All we ask is that all the pots have a 21-inch opening or bigger, because we don't want a bunch of little pots downtown. 21-inch open. We'll take whatever you got. They don't have to match. So they did that. Then what they did is they brought them downtown, and merchants could just grab them. They didn't say if you paid $20, you only get one. They didn't care. They did not do it that way. They just said, here's all the pots. They brought a big, huge flatbed truck. Everybody just went and grabbed their own. Some merchants grabbed these that were all terracotta. Some merchants ratched these. They didn't even have to match. Then you know what they did? And by the way, this lady grabbed these two, put them by her doors. Then the next March, so they sat there all winter. The next March, they put 15 yards of topsoil in a side street. Then they paid Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, school band, cheerleaders, any group, youth group looking to raise money. They paid them to plant all the pots. And by the way, the things that are planted in the pots, 2/3 are evergreen and 1/3 are perennials or annuals. So you always had greenery. And by having the kids do that, and by the way, this guy, there was some left over. So he just did a little grouping of them. Doesn't that make you want to go in? They never had one case of vandalism because kids protect things that they take ownership of. It works. Here's a statistic I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you 3 important statistics. Here's the first one. 70% of first-time sales come from curb appeal. We all travel. Have you ever said these very words? That looks like a nice place to eat. None of your restaurants do a good job of saying that. I shouldn't say that. A couple of them do. But that is the power of curb appeal. It goes back to what I very first started with the house. Why didn't the house, they put asphalt instead of lawn? It's curb appeal. This is Neenah, Wisconsin, 500. The city takes care of the curbside. Merchants in Main Street should take care of the facade side. Before, after, retail sales went up by a third. Just doing that. Yet in your downtown, I mean, other than a few merchants do a good job, but beautification pays. That's a bike rack. Even it has a flower pot on top. I'll give you one idea. This is St. Albert. It's up in Edmonton, not far from that bike town, Devon. They're the Botanic Arts City. They have their brand promise on the kiosk right downtown. They're all about gardening. By the way, I said biking was the fastest growing hobby. You know what number 2 is? Gardening. So you know what the city did? They did a cool thing. They said if people will beautify their businesses downtown, we will pay 50%. So if you spend $5,000, we'll pay up to $2,500 to beautify downtown. So one coffee shop, this is it, he changed the name and then he did the landscaping. Notice his white thing, this is before. He took advantage of it after. His sales went up 400%. Just by doing that. 400%. And then pretty soon everybody downtown started to do it. That's how important it is. Here's number 2. 70% comes from curb appeal. Women account for 80% of all consumer spending. I'm waiting for the guys. Usually there's some guy in the audience that says, that's all? But it's a flat out fact. It's absolutely true. Women want to go in places they feel safe and welcome. Men will take more of a risk. But I want you to look at this next picture, which was not staged. What do you see? I have 2 words for you. Think benches. And I don't like the benches you have, and I'm going to tell you why in a minute. Here's the scoop. By the way, I thought this was great. 2 guys sitting to the bench. The woman's the one doing the window shopping. You know what the problem is with these? I wouldn't want to sit in that. All benches should be at the facades facing out and should have backs. I know this was an expense, and I know you're trying to do some good things downtown, but all benches should be at the facades with a pot on each end facing out. It's the same thing as having a porch swing on a house. You know, where they put a couple of chairs out there on the deck. Even if you never sit on it, it still says welcome. And that would help you soften the facade. Matter of fact, if I go back to this, can you imagine putting a nice big pot here, then putting a bench, put another pot here, another bench here? You know, that's what I would do. I beautify this. Because these really don't do anything. I never saw anybody ever sitting on those benches of course, I've only been here a few days. But all of these things are just, they're just stark. I mean, what I see more is be aware. It's like, oh my gosh, is this a dangerous downtown? There you go. Curb Appeal Award for Independence right there. Beautiful store, well decorated. That is what more need to do. You know what? If you had your whole downtown looking like that, you'd be packed with people. Because in Fredericksburg, once they did that, that's what people did. They said, wow, this is a beautiful downtown. Let's spend time here. Because right now, they're driving through on Main Street. If they look up Penn, it's dark. But if you made Penn look really great, you know what's going to happen? People are going to get there, get to that intersection, and go, whoa, turn left. Or right, depending on which way they're going. I thought they did a great job. Now, I've never been able to figure out what this business is. But the curb appeal's awesome. So it is. I would have never walked down the street if it wasn't for that. So I couldn't figure out if this was a place where you bring your dog and you could feed your dog, or whether they were about hot dogs, or whether they're about, I am assuming it is a restaurant, but I couldn't really. So sometimes what you have to put is Yankee Dog's Diner, or something just to tell us what it is you're selling. But once again, nice planters there, the chairs, the tables, the umbrellas. It got me to go down there. But you know, there was no way I was going to go across the street. Do they still operate? Yes. Are the donuts good? Yes. Do they sell them in there? Yes. If that was in another town, would you ever go in there the way it looks? No. That's what we're talking about. Curb appeal number 2, here we go. Now this bothers me when I see chains everywhere. I know the Jayhawks are popular, but are they that popular that people are going to steal all the benches? But once again, Twigs, they did a nice job. I mean, at least here, and we've got the ice cream shop or yogurt shop right there. Nice job. Tables and chairs, even if nobody's in them, makes it inviting. But at least they took the time to do that. And the Chamber of Commerce looks good. So that's the power of beautification. You know, here, you know, I was over at the Celebrity Hall of Fame. Mike said, you know what, over there across the street, did you know they have a soda fountain there? I would have never, there's no way I would ever go in there. There's no curb appeal. If they had one little cafe table there, another cafe table there, and then if they put a little sign out here, you know, and there might be a sign somewhere, but you know what, that soda fountain's been open since, I think, 1936. It's cool. So I went in there and had a root beer float. I haven't had one of those in 20 years. And it was, so when I was done, the lady, really nice lady, said, you know, I said, I want to take a picture of the soda fountain. And you know what she did? She came running around. I said, wait, let me straighten out all the chairs. So I retook the picture. But here's a cool thing. She did not have the chairs facing in. Look at this. It's welcome. It's open. I thought that was really cool. I don't know if she did that on purpose or not, but normally, if it was me straightening the chairs, I would have had the back out, you know, just like somebody sitting there. But this way, it's just saying, pick one. See how these things are subliminal in our minds? Great place. That's a disgrace. Now, you probably had the wrong kind of trees, maybe. You probably, and by the way, you never put trees that bear nuts or fruit. You don't do ones that have lots of seedlings, but there are all kinds of shade trees you can do. Nothing is more important than street trees. And those are about every 50 feet or so. They should be every 30 feet. Let me give you one example. This is Greenville, South Carolina. That is it in the 70s. This is back when Sears and Penny's and Woolworth were all downtowns. And of course, when people moved to the suburbs, they went with them. So in the 80s, they narrowed the street down to 2 lanes. They added angle-in parking. They created wider sidewalks, and they put in street trees every 25 feet. And this is what it looks like today. Here's the story. When they put in those street trees back here, merchants complained, they're blocking my signs. Public Works Department, the leaves are going to be in the storm drains. They're going to uproot the sidewalks. I mean, there was all these complaints about what the street trees were going to do. Birds are going to be them. They're going to be pooping all over everything. They went and complained, and the city did it anyway. And I went into 22 merchants in Greenville a couple years ago and surveyed them and say, what do you think of the street trees here? And they didn't remember it back from the 80s. Every single one of them said, if they ever took one of those down, we'd be really ticked. Because it created shade in the summer, it made it intimate, it made it a nice setting. They created little alcoves for little bands. And by the way, they do cull out the trees. Every 20 years, they take one tree out and plant it. So over time, you'll be short ones and tall ones. So they never take them all out. They don't change them all out. But so that for me, I think was a real shame. Because if you did that down, I mean, look at that street. Doesn't it make you want to just go down there? That's the same street as that. Same location. What a difference. Shade tree in summer. And by the way, in the winter, they light them all up. Talk about a cool display. They use white light, so it's not just Christmas. And starting in October, November, they're lit up. And it just creates a great, great place. And by the way, their downtown does nearly $1 billion a year in retail sales and services. Now, granted, they're a bigger city, but that is how important it is. You need to bring them back. Keep America Beautiful Network did a cool thing. They went in 4 towns that had no street trees. They had them plant street trees in 1 block. And here they're about every 20 feet. Then what they did is they watched the retail in the 1 block with the street trees and compared the increases or decreases to the rest of the town without it. You know what happened? All 4 cities, the block with the street trees, the retail sales went up 18% faster or more than the blocks without. No changes. All they did is add street trees, and it was an 18% increase in retail sales. Get your trees back. Because your downtown is stark without it. Here's the next one. Blade signs should be a top priority. When we drive down, can you tell me what's in any of those shops? I can see DJs down there. I have no idea what's in this store, this store, this store, this store. I have no idea. Blade signs are perpendicular signs to us. When we're walking down a sidewalk, when we're driving down the street in the car, we're not looking out our windows like this. We see blade signs, perpendicular signs. Can you tell me what's in any of these shops? I know Verizon's right there, but tell me what's in any of these. And you wonder why when people are cruising through on Main Street, they don't stop because they don't have a clue what you have to offer. Because when we're driving down that street, we're not going to be looking out our side windows. We're not going to be trying to see what you have way up there above the awnings. Can you tell me what's in any of these stores? Where's your blade signs? How about here? I mean, how about here? You have no beautification. Well, here we got a couple plans. That's a start. But you know, I have no clue what's in any of these. Give me a reason to walk another block. The only way I even know what's over here is being across the street. Because you know what? If I'm walking down the sidewalk, the only way I'm going to see that sign is to walk out here in the traffic and then look up. So where's your blade signs? I mean, look everywhere. This right here, I have no clue what this is. What is this? It's a coffee shop? Can you read the signs? How many people are blowing through Independence because you don't have blade signs? If there's a city ordinance that does not allow blade signs, then you need to change the city ordinance flat out. Chocolate, collectibles, train store, restaurant. Always put on the sign what's going to pull us in, by the way, not the name of the store. This was in Leavenworth, Washington, a Bavarian town. Nantucket. Notice they're kind of uniform. They don't have to be cookie cutter size, but at least they're consistent so you don't have sign clutter. That's in Nantucket. That's Carmel, California. The best towns in America all have blade signs. So there you go. Banff, Alberta. Under awnings. A lot of these are under awnings, by the way. This is Valparaiso, Indiana. It's a little bigger town, so the bigger city, so the signs are a little bit bigger. But once again, there's good consistency. This is Canmore, Alberta. You can tell we do a lot of work in Canada. So they've got these right here. That's a great little sign, isn't it? Did you know that blade signs can increase sales by up to a third? A $200 sign? There's some general rules for you. What to do with blade signs. Signage can say a lot about you. I mean, right? You didn't think that was that funny. Okay, how about this one? Signage says a lot about you. I know school's out, but you're a little slow on that one. See the guy scratching his head, now what do we do? Does that look like a nice B&B? You just made a judgment by the sign. I didn't have to show you the B&B for you to know that it's nice, and it is nice. Does that look nice? Inn of the White Salmon. Signage is, man, it's so important. I love this. I saw this on a storefront once. If you need a specific item, please knock. Other than that, we are closed. Thank you. So would you go up and bang on the door? I mean, signage says a lot about you. How many of you have been there and done that? And what happens when you're on vacation and you're going down memory lane just to find out it's a dead end? I was working in Texas and I'm driving down the highway and there's the Be Happy Ranch and I thought, this is so great. The next ranch said the Happy Go Lucky Ranch. I know, what a great area, Texas. And then I came to the next one. So, you know, here is the art district. Can you read that? You never use script writing online. It says Clymer Museum. And see visitor information, information back there. We got all the sign color. We got Longyard Cattle Company. We got trash, go-karts. No wonder. You know, look at this. Here's the Ellensburg Rodeo. Look at it. Here is a bunch of old tires, a beat-up guardrail, trash, weeds there. Would you ever guess that this is one of the top 20 rated rodeos in the United States? See what sign says about you? I saw this once. I'll let you go ahead and read it. Would you shop at any store in that town? I went, I'm out of here. Whoa. I saw this in Wyoming. And my favorite one is in Door County, Wisconsin. It's funny, I was speaking at the Governor's Conference on Tourism in Wisconsin. We had like 900 people in the audience. And I showed this sign, and this lady jumped up out in the middle of the audience, is going like this. So we stopped everything, turned around a big spotlight, shone around her. I said, yes, ma'am, can I help you? And she yelled out, can you tell me how to get there? Does this look like a nice place to stay? See what I mean? You made a judgment call based on that. And finally, sometimes it can come down to a personal level. Gives new meaning to the word branded. How well received you? Yeah, so he got home, was picking his clothes out of the tree. Woo! And for your merchants, always promote what it is you're selling before the name of the store. What would you guess that is? Crab Shack? Comedy Club? They went out of business because they sold kites and windsocks. What would you guess that is? Go ahead, guess. Pub? Yeah, restaurant? They're barely hanging on because they sell t-shirts and souvenirs. So here's the point. I have no clue what this business is. I don't know whether they sell used men's clothes, new men's clothes, just clothing, kids' clothes. I have no clue. I have no clue. No curb appeal. It's great. By the way, in your downtown, other than Cherry Berry, is that right? Most of your, why is everything in downtown Independence have to be gray, brown, and beige? Add some color. But I have no clue. Here, Heaven's Angels, I figure has something to do with kids, because I see, but I don't know if it's used kids' clothing, new kids' clothing, but I'm confused because we sell sweet corn and meat too. And so sometimes you have to be a little more obvious what it is. You know, we specialize in children's clothing. I went into a merchant once. Can you read this down here? It says quality handmade gifts and furniture. I have no wood merchant. I know he makes stuff out of wood, but I don't know what. So I went in and had him, I said, how would you like to do an experience? He says, what do you want me to do? I said, I'd like you to repaint the sign, take it down, repaint it, and just put on it, handmade gifts and furniture. He said, why would we do that? It's not the name of my store. I said, but it says wood merchant right here. It says it here. It says it on the door. This is the lure to people in. It doesn't have to be the name of the business. So he said, well, I'll think about it. I called him about 3 weeks later, and I said, so, sir, did you do that sign? He goes, yes. And I went, whoa. I said, tell me about your experience. He said, well, first of all, I have cars. See the shadows of cars? He said, first of all, I had to go rent a lift truck, you know, one of those bucket trucks, because I couldn't get a ladder up there to get past the awning. And then I had to stop pedestrians from going in. The second I took the sign down, then the city said I'd get a permit to put it back up. Then I had to pay the sign company to repaint it. Then I had to go rent the lift truck. The whole thing cost me like $350 to do it, and I didn't have a sign for like 4 days. And I said, well, how long has it been up? He says, like a week. And I said, well, did it make a difference? And I'm going, and he goes, I'm just joshing with you. I paid for the new sign the first day in increased profits. Wow. And I went, whew, I was ready to write him a check. Because handmade gifts and furniture was the lure to pull people in the store. In Jackson, Wyoming, Grizzly Ritz Market was the whole sign. I didn't care about a market. When he added these things, his retail sales went up by 30%. He created the lure to pull people in. Signage says a lot about you. What do you think of the Jackpot Nevada Golf Club? Come on. How many of you would pay $100 for 18 holes? Do I hear 50? 10? How much would I have to pay you? This is the clubhouse. And this is the sign at the golf course. I said, why isn't that sign down on the highway? And they said, well, Roger, one of our high school students painted that billboard in the 1970s, and his parents still live here. And every year the golf course drivers go down and down and down. Because signage says a lot about you. What do you think? Oh, come on. It says one bed, $20. By the hour. No, I'm kidding. It is in Nevada, so that might be true. Beautiful, beautiful building. Used to be a theater. Is it still a theater? No? Oh my gosh. Because I just thought, oh, that is, talk about a gem. Is there a move to restore it or anything? It could be awesome. Theaters are back, by the way, in downtowns. So anyway, there's no signs on it, so I thought, man, I wonder why. And that's why. Where are the sidewalk cafes? Where are they? I mean, they do it good here. They do a good job here at Frankie's Dogs. But I didn't see other places do it. Right here, this is nice, very nice. So here's another one. Good job right here. Put this out in the morning. I love this idea of the chairs with the plants in them. That's pretty cool. Gets them off the ground and makes it really pretty. Once we got a bench and it's flanked by pots. Good job. So here's another great job where somebody did this. The problem is you only have 1 or 2 merchants. Is she here or he? They
are back there.
Where are they? Raise your hands. Way to go. Woohoo. Were you sitting back there going, well, wait a second, what about our shop? Yeah, okay, good. Good job. Because when we look up Penn, it should just jump at us. So right here, this is a good start. We've got a few, but you know, for the most part, it's pretty stark and pretty bare. But where's the sidewalk cafes? They should be allowed. If they're not allowed, or if it's a hassle to get them, the city needs to make it easy to get them, to put them out there. In Asheville, North Carolina, they don't even have to put stanchions or anything. You know what they have there? They call it the crack rule. It has nothing to do with drugs or low-hanging jeans. The deal is we want them to make sure that all the chairs are on this side of the crack so that wheelchairs and everything get through there. And you know what? If a chair ends up slightly, and by the way, this merchant had them all tucked back in there, but if a chair goes over that, they don't sit there and give them a ticket because they have never had a lawsuit. Every time a wheelchair or somebody comes down here, the patrons just say, oh, excuse me, and they move their chair in. They've never had a problem. Sometimes we regulate ourselves. We can't allow blade signs because what if they fell and the city owns the sidewalk and they hit somebody? You know what you do? You regulate yourselves into a ghost town. Stop it. Downtown needs to be about people, not regulations. Cities are now doing this. If you have a 5-year lease for a restaurant, the city will come out and lose 2 parking places, build this so you could have outdoor dining. You should be doing this in the summer. You know, this is Salem, Massachusetts. And by the way, they don't all have to be cookie cutter and the same. Let everybody do their own thing. Make it free flow. These are all silk. You could even do this. This is Nelson, British Columbia. I took this in October. They're getting ready to take them all down for the winter. They're in the Rocky Mountains. And so they had just taken this board off. But what they do here is they let pedestrians pass through on the sidewalk, and then they allow them to put out a deck, and in the winter they take it down. And they were just taking it down when I got there. You know, this is in Wolfville, Nova Scotia. These are all places with heavy winters. In their case, they let the diners on the sidewalk, and then people walk around on these. And so these are the kinds of things you should be doing. Bring your downtown to life, because it's dead. Even during the day, there's businesses open, but it still looks dead. And these things just bring it to life. It slows traffic. So once again, you can see them dining there, and then people can walk around it on the outside. But this is the age of gathering places, all of these kinds of places. This is that little town of Canmore. I mean, none of them have to be. You've got wide enough sidewalks to allow this, but you're not taking advantage of it. Look at this little ice cream shop. All they have is 2 little tables and 4 chairs. You know what? Every time people sit out there and ice cream, a line forms. So it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be expensive. It should be easy for merchants to do. Look at this one. This is I took this one, it's brand new. They had just put it up. It's got all the reflectors on it. They put planters there, and there's where people can go around. And I took this early in the morning, so they weren't even open yet. But that's how easy it can be. That's what you need to do. And you need to create invitations, not rejections. I don't see your restaurants doing that. I don't see your retailers doing that. I took that in January in Grass Valley, California. It's all silk. By the way, she has an air curtain there, so it just blows down air, and so she can have her door open even in the middle of the winter, and the cold stays out and the heat stays in. Extend your window displays to exterior spaces. I saw this lady doing this. She was really struggling to push all these out there. I said, "Can I help you, ma'am?" And she goes, No, that's my exercise routine. I do it every morning. And I said, "Does it really help your business?" She goes, "If I didn't do it, I'd look like this business." She goes, "Yeah, it helped my business." And so I think that I love this, where Deanna Combs, the insurance agent, you know, she's in a retail building, so what do you do? So she put in all this stuff, and it's great because I recognized all these albums and everything. It dated me. I think it dated Deanna, too. I haven't met her. I don't know who she is. But I think, boy, she was listening to Neil Diamond, the Doobie Brothers, you know. And so just adding some beautification, some pots, those kinds of things. But I think she did a good job. The bike shop, every morning there should be bikes piled out there. There should be bikes just lined up. If it's not allowed, change the ordinance. Even the hardware store, there should be wheelbarrows and stuff. Now, out in Sears, they put a couple things out. But this should be all full of displays on the outside. It just brings downtown to life. But the one thing you want to do is make sure that you're not just doing stuff like that. Because that makes you look like a second-class garage sale town. Remember, you would never have a clothes rack in your display window so you don't bring it outside. And so no folding tables with stuff piled on it. So here I am to give people a bad time here. Nope, I would not allow that. You can put a mannequin out there, you can do things like that, but the second, you would never just you would never have a clothes rack in your window, so you don't do that out there. But those are things you can do. Curb appeal. Remember what I said about women. Look like a cute place to go in? That's in Wickford, Rhode Island, a town half the size of yours. By the way, there's a sign right next to the door, very smart. Your husband called, he said to buy anything you want. Great sign. All your merchants, never say no. Tell me where I can go. This is the power of public restrooms. Never allow merchants to do that. For customers only or no public restrooms. Instead, do that. Because relieved visitors spend more. They do. Get rid of all close signs. I mean, this should never be allowed on any merchant downtown. Instead, you could make signs like this. And then they could write in their hours right there. You know, it's an invitation to come back. Close says go away. By the way, I see close signs on your merchants' doors, and if it's closed, I'm not going to walk up to the door to see your hours in little letters. I'm just leaving. So do something along that line. And if you're going to do this, open in August, what is it going to be? Tell me. But I think it's a good job saying it's an invitation to come back, but I'd still like to know what it is. And I think it's obvious that you're closed. Create a lure to pull something in. You know, I don't have time to tell the story. Well, you know, I'll tell it anyway. I was doing an assessment of this town. This is Grandma's attic. The Penticton Chamber was here. And people, I walked down and took this picture. I came back about 20 minutes later. There was a line of people coming out this door and down the sidewalk trying to get in. I went, what the heck? I looked behind the line, and sitting in these 2 chairs were 2 kids eating ice cream cones. There's a little sign up here you can't see at the window. It says ice cream. So you know what I did? I got in line, of course. I worked my way in, and she sells home accents. But in her store, she had one of those 3-foot ice cream counters. You know, it has like 4 tubs of ice cream in it. And I got my way all the way up to the ice cream counter. I said, ma'am, is this your store? And she goes, you bet it is. And I said, you know, if I was you, I'd give those kids free ice cream and make them sit out there all day. And she goes, that's what I do. Then she clarified, and she says, you know, actually, I give kids 1 free ice cream cone a day, and they do have to eat it in those chairs, but there's an unlimited supply of kids, and their moms love me. And I said, have you ever kept track of how much of your non-ice cream sales come from the ice cream? She goes, yes, 70%. And I said, but what about people coming, you know how most people know food and drink. I said, you sell home accent stuff. I mean, do you ever have, you've got people walking around your store with ice cream cones. And she goes, yeah, every once in a while I have an accident, but you know what? The income certainly outweighs fixing the mess. So what's the lure to pull people in your stores? And then 43, I got 7 to go. This is the rule of critical mass in your downtown. If you want downtown Independence to be a draw, a standalone destination, you need to have this in 3 lineal blocks. So like Penn, basically from here down to Maine. This is the minimum you need to have. And it could be on Myrtle, it could be on any of your side streets. You need to have 10 places that sell food. And I'm not saying all of downtown, on one street. I don't know where you're at there. And by the way, Cherryberry, those places, they can do that. I'm not talking about side streets, I'm talking about, and by the way, it could be a block this way, and this way. It doesn't even have to be a straight line, but I'm just going to use Penn because it's about 3 blocks from here down to Maine, isn't it? So that's what you should have. Then you need to have 10 destination retail shops. These are all non-chain retail. So you have to take your Ace Hardware out and your Radio Shack and some of those. And by the way, we're glad they're there. I'm not braining on their parade at all. I'm just saying you have to also have 10, in addition, things that are unique to Independence. And here's the third one. You ready? At least 10 of those open after 6 o'clock. On Wednesday night, I walked at 8:05. I walked from Main Street up Penn down the middle of the street. And I only had to go over to the sidewalk for 1 car. And I walked all the way from the Civic Center down to Maine, or from Maine up to here, and not 1 car. I mean, there was nobody on 8th, the other streets, the cross streets, at 8 o'clock. They need to have consistent hours and days. They need to be open in the evening hours. Like business group together, your downtown needs to get the mall mentality. You know what? If you had 30 restaurants on Penn Street, you'd have people coming here from Coffeyville, from Bartlesville. You'd have people come from everywhere to come downtown. If you have 30 antique shops, they do the same thing. Whatever it is that is your brand, like businesses grouped together, you need to have anchor tenants. Downtowns are a central gathering place, and there you go. You need to have those anchor tenants. And so, take a look at this.
Finally tonight, in a nation and a culture where everything's been sped up, some may be sad to learn that now applies to the time-honored tradition of quilt making. It's now possible to create an individual blanket work of art in as little as a day. And as you'll see, what this one woman has done is a good thing for her small Missouri town, putting the place on the map and becoming something of a celebrity in the do-it-yourself community. We get her story tonight from NBC's Harry Smith.
It looks like it's been a while since Hamilton, Missouri has been the hotbed of anything. But stop in at the Missouri Star Quilt Company on Main Street, and you'll see dozens of people from miles around who have come to see and hear Jenny Doan.
All I was hoping for was, here's Jenny.
Doan figured out how to streamline a process that once took months and even years.
That's our whole goal, is to make it easy. It's always been one of these kind of mysterious things that's way out there that our grandmothers did.
Now just about anyone can make a quilt in a day.
That.
People who quilt the old way.
The purists,
The
yes.
purists.
Yes,
Right.
purists.
And they look at somebody like you and you're kind of a heretic.
How cool is that? Well, here's my feeling. We're kind of like the McDonald's of the quilt world, you know? I know this looks a little crazy, but
Jenny Doan's quilting revolution started with a few videos she posted on YouTube.
I know it looks really hard, but it's so easy.
In them, her philosophy. First, don't be afraid to make mistakes. And
I don't want to make something that's going to sit on a shelf that's so special that nobody wants to use it. I want to make something that is loved and worn out to the last thread.
turns out Jenny is so good and her shortcuts work so well.
She's given me my therapy sessions every day.
Sunshine in a barrel.
She now has 150,000 subscribers, and her tutorials have been viewed more than 28 million times. And the Missouri Star Quilt Company is the fastest growing business around. Which is that much more gratifying because Jenny and her family had been knocked flat by the recession, says her son Alan.
Looking around, the fact that we have 85 employees
Hear
that
that?
all feed their
85.
families because of what we do just blows me away.
So your name is Nancy? Yes.
And because people now flock to Hamilton to see Jenny in person, plans are afoot for restaurants and accommodations. Amazing what can happen when you patch a few ideas together. Harry Smith, NBC News, Hamilton, Missouri.
See? Pretty cool, huh? One little business. Like businesses grouped together. Antique malls. I mean, they're all in one business. They're all competitors, yet they're grouped together. Auto malls do 7 times the business. Why would Chevy want to be right across the street from Ford, Honda, Subaru, and everybody else? Because they do more business when they're grouped together. All of these things. Food courts. That is what you need to do. And I would probably start with Penn. So sometimes you have to orchestrate the effort. You start with the property owners, not tenants. And by the way, if you can get 1/3 to do it, pretty soon the market will drive the other 2/3. That's exactly what they did back there in Jefferson, Texas. They orchestrated the business mix. And then number 44, anybody ever heard of trompe l'oeil? Anybody know French? You know what it means? Good. We got a couple people back there that do. French is fool the eye. I saw buildings like this that's just so stark. I mean, it just doesn't, and then you got all the windows all blanked in. I thought, man, I'm not too sure what to do there, but maybe we could do some trompe l'oeil murals. So let me show you this. This is what trompe l'oeil is. This is at a Mercedes dealership in downtown Seattle. So it's a type of mural where you're going to fool the eye. It's already looking three-dimensional, isn't it? They even painted on the bricks. That's actually concrete block. Even the shadows are painted on. Check that out. And look at how close. They're going to zoom in right down to a couple of square inches. It's been the most photographed Mercedes dealership in the United States. All this is painted on. All this stuff here is all painted on. All of this. But how do you take a wall and make it look like something? I mean, look at this. That is a flat concrete wall. That's during the process. There he is, same guy. There it is done. Is that cool or what? Or even like this. During, boom. Pretty cool, huh? Or how about like this and that? Amazing. Even that little kid, that's all painted on. I mean, how cool is that? This is in a microbrew. Notice the hoses here. You're going to see them in the next picture. Before, after. I asked her, how many people go up and clunk into the wall? She goes, we haven't had that happen, but people do kind of put their hands on the wall to make sure, you know. Sitting on a corner in Winslow, Arizona, such a fine sight to see. There's a girl, my lord, in a flatbed Ford slowing down to take a look at me. Guess what? The building doesn't even exist. It fell down. Only the facade is there. That's not real glass, but you see the girl in the flatbed Ford right there. You see that? Looks like a furniture store, all painted on. And there you go. There's the couple, and there's homage to the Eagles. 2 million people drive an hour and a half out of their way from the Grand Canyon just to get their picture taken in front of that. Trompe l'oeil, fool the eye. You can even do facade easement. This is Huntsville, Texas. All of these, all this scroll work, all of this stuff is painted on. Even the shadows, all this stuff is painted on. And they did facade easements, so then the city could do that. So I kept seeing these buildings. I even thought here at the theater, man, can we have Darth Vader looking out the window there and Indiana Jones here? And I mean, you could do movie characters. You know what I mean? Make your downtown fun. You could do that. You know, the same with this building, all of this stuff. So anyway, it's another idea. And so finally, one of my last ones, I better hurry, I want to talk about plazas. Because we're in the age of third places. The first place is the place we live. The second place is the place we work. And the third place is the place we go to hang out. Starbucks built an entire brand around third places. Italy, most visited destination, leisure destination on the planet. Every single city is built around a piazza. This is Siena. And it's ringed with commerce, whether it's restaurants, retail shops, you name it. This is in Florence. Virtually every town in Europe. You know what? We're finally moving to the European standard. We're eating later at night. We're shopping later at night. And we want things to do after work and on weekends. That is the future of downtowns. That is what you're missing. If you want the youth back at Independence, you need to create third places. And it has entertainers and entertainment. So cities everywhere are taking streets like that and turning them to streets like this. And all these are gathering places. That is the future. And so you need to turn your downtown parks into plaza, add water, make them interactive. And I'm going to give you one case history, and I'll try to do it quickly. We're working in Rapid City, South Dakota. Nice city. This is right downtown. I told them, get rid of the 60-space parking garage. Matter of fact, get rid of the old Sears building right there. I said, tear it down, build that old plaza. The merchants and people scream bloody murder. You're going to get rid of our parking, and you're going to tear down the old building. Well, nothing was in there. This is that site, and I thought, man, you could even add a third story on the parking garage, then put restaurants and stuff in the first level of parking garage, and get rid of this, maybe get rid of this. We wanted them to do that. Wouldn't that be cool? But they didn't. Instead, I got a call from a guy that said, Roger, you know that Sears building? Right here it says, I just bought it. And we're not tearing it down, but I gave the city $1 million to help build this plaza. Smart guy, because he knew that if there was a plaza right next to that building, his building would be very valuable. Before, and by the way, downtown Rapid City was dead during the summer. People were there, but they're at Mount Rushmore, they're everywhere else. They weren't downtown. Before, after. This is a Sunday morning at 10 a.m., 2 summers ago. 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning. Look at the place. It's packed. There's the old Sears building. It's full of shops. It's full of restaurants down there. There's the parking garage. They did add the 3rd level. I mean, there it is. The place is packed. All of a sudden, Rapid City, that I called the hole in the middle of the donut, because people go there and they go to Mount Rushmore and Sturgis and Deadwood and Custer State Park and Badlands National Park. They go to all that stuff. They were never downtown, and now look at it. It's packed. They activate this 250 days a year. There's the stage right there. I mean, it's just crazy. There's a splash pad that they have going right there. They shut it off because they were doing a dog show and we were there. They had police dogs showing how police dogs work. And so they always have these demonstrations and things going on. All of a sudden, car shows started coming, quilt shows started coming, motorcycle shows. Everybody wanted to host events in downtown. And there's the splash pad and people watching that show, and later on, they'll have the splash pad actually turned on. It lights up at night. It amazingly, totally revolutionized their downtown. Changed everything. And you know the guy who bought that building said, I was in my office once and I saw those kids playing down there, and I know they wanted to make some additions to the square, so I gave them another $1 million. Even the restaurants down, it's Firehouse Brewing. It used to be an old fire station. It's now hopping. And during the winter, look what they do. Wouldn't it be cool if somewhere in downtown Independence you had this plaza that in the winter you could put an ice rink in? By the way, Main Street Square, they make $130,000 a year just renting ice skates. That's what it looks like during the summer. You know what? The average age of a person buying a home in Rapid City in the 2 years it's been out has already dropped by 12 years. It means young people are coming back. Somebody posted this, I think, on Facebook. Movie night, Main Street Square. By the way, every Monday night they show movies on the square. Average attendance, 3,500. You want those 44,000 people to hang out here? Do this. Your restaurants are going to be packed. By the way, I grew up in Rapid City. It was never as cool as it is now. Wouldn't it be nice if people said that about Independence? I would encourage you to watch the other video. So I was downtown trying to figure out, man, could we take out the bank? Is he here? I'm thinking, what a great plaza. And when I say take out the bank, I wasn't talking about robbing it. I was talking about, actually relocating it. But I don't know. I mean, I looked at that. It needs to be in the heart of and then what you do is you put restaurants in here and you'd open all this up onto the plaza. Maybe you'd even close off this side street. I don't know. I looked back here, but it's a block off a Penn. It's not, I don't know how you'd monetize it. Is this Elks or whatever this is here? I thought, could we have restaurants in there and open it up onto a plaza, get rid of this parking here? Somewhere could we do that? I even thought, you know what? Maybe we should just close off this street right here, 8th, for a block, up to the museum, and make this whole thing a plaza. Because I thought you could do rooftop stuff here. You could open this up and you'd have a restaurant there. We have a little detail shop in there. This building is kind of vacant and looking pretty sad, but it has potential if it was a plaza. And so I thought, man, could we, I don't know whether we could take out the bank in that side street or not, whether, and this is why I have to run to the airport when I leave really quickly. Because I don't want to displace a bank, but I'm just trying to figure out where can we put a plaza in downtown Independence. And I thought, well, maybe we could do this and actually we're not taking any of these things out. We would just expand the plaza so it's like the museum is sitting on the plaza and all these retailers. So we'd actually have the plaza come down here. I thought, could we do this? We'd have a couple levels here. I mean, this whole thing could be so cool that we'd have this area and you'd have concerts there. And here's the deal, plazas must be programmed. So in Rapid City, you know what your problem is? You have a few events downtown. Probably, if I added up all your events in downtown, would they add up to 20 days? Maybe. But But you know what? No merchant can make it on 20 days. In Rapid City, they have their plaza active 250 days a year. And guess what? There's absolutely no vacancies. They had a third of their stores were vacant before Main Street Square. No vacancies, a waiting list for people to get in, and all the businesses have broken sales records. The people that complain about losing the parking, they say they complain the plaza's going to pull people out of our stores. I went back there and said, give me the list of the 15 businesses that complained the most. And I went to them. They didn't remember who I was. I said, you know that plaza, Main Street Square, does that really help your business? Every single one of them said it's the best thing Rapid City ever did. You could do the same thing in Independence, but you have to program it. So somewhere in your downtown, I encourage you to do a plaza. All of a sudden, you'd have rooftop dining here. You'd have loft apartments up here. These could be cool little restaurants. I mean, if you want revitalization, by the way, downtown, you know what comes first? Not retailers, not events, people. The more days you have people downtown, the more likely you are to have the retailers will follow. You have to remember this. When people moved to the suburbs, the businesses went with them. That was the beginning of the end for downtowns. Retailers always go where the people are. If you have people downtown 250 days a year, guess what? Your retail shops are going to be absolutely 100% full, and your downtown will be an amazing destination that could beat or rival or beat Lawrence. You could. And so I just thought the potential here is amazing. And the other thing you need to do is promote your anchor tenants. You need to promote your very best restaurants, retail shops, the best you have. We did this in Alpena, Michigan, where they picked their top restaurants, retail shops, and activities, and they created a brochure, and I actually have one right here. Here's the Alpena brochure. I'll be done in a couple minutes, and I know that I was only going to keep you till noon. But they did this. Each merchant paid $400 to be in this. They were invited. And I'm going to show you their criteria. You must promote your... By the way, there's no hotels or anything because you know what? The most asked question of a visitor on the planet is, where's a good place to eat? And don't hand me a list. I don't want to see the chamber directory. Hand you one of these. And a hotel won't hand this out if they have their competitors in there. They paid $400 for each one of those. A couple of them couldn't afford to be in there, so the $400 the other ones paid helped subsidize it. Here was their sample criteria. You could do the same thing. They had to be highly regarded, 80% positive reviews on TripAdvisor, Yelp. They had, all these things. They had to have good curb appeal. They had to be open year-round. They had to be open until at least 6. It'd be great if down the road they're open until 7 or 8. They had to be open at least 6 days a week. The day they could be closed was Monday. And they had to be unique to you. You know what they did? They mailed one of these to every household in their town. By the way, their population is also 10,000. And you know what they did? They mailed it to every household with a little note that said this: the number one reason people travel is to visit friends and family. We hope that you will hang on to this brochure so that when friends and family visit you, you will showcase the best of what Independence has to offer. Because we believe that every dining room table should be a concierge desk. Within days, people started coming downtown, even without friends and family, going, I didn't know you were here. How long have you been here? And the merchant would grit her teeth and say, 10 years. Within 90 days, their hotel occupancies tripled. Because of this brochure, it got them to spend the night. Now, they only had 9 hotel rooms, so, no, I'm kidding. They actually had 400 hotel rooms. They tripled it because people were coming in and they're going, oh my gosh, we should spend the night here. Oh my gosh, let's go check out that restaurant. Always promote your best ofs. Promote your anchor tenants. And you know what? People at first, well, you picked them and you didn't pick me and I pay my chamber dues. Never happened here, of course. But you know now what they're saying? Hey, I didn't realize, just like in a mall, when we go to the anchor tenants, we're also shopping at Radio Shack. We're doing all those, see what I mean? Everybody benefited by the anchor tenants. So that's what you should do. All of these suggestions could double your local spending, and none of these were really heavy. And another thing you could do is get Wi-Fi downtown and create these. Take your picture at this statue and post it right here, right now. You need to make digital marketing number one. So I'm going to talk about marketing just for a minute. And I said this earlier, 94% use the web. It should be your number one, and they're frustrated. So here's how you spend your marketing as a business and as a community. Digital, 45% of whatever your marketing budget. That's website, social media, e-newsletter, all those things. Advertising, there you go. Public relations, which is articles written about you. Printed materials, 10%. Trade shows, billboards, that's how your money should be spent as businesses and as a community. Almost half on digital. And by the way, social media, it's not about you and your Facebook page. You should have it, but let me give you one example. Claire is my daughter. She has 321 friends in her closed Facebook network. And it's closed. It's not just open to the public. She took kids, our grandkids, her kids, out on a ferry ride. All of a sudden, all of her friends started engaging in conversation. Oh my gosh, we should do that. But here's the real story. Last November, we took them down to Disneyland. And I sit on the board of U.S. Travel with Randy Garfield, one of the main guys at Disney. I said, you know, Randy, you know what I discovered about Mickey, Minnie, Goofy, Daffy, Donald, you know, all the characters dressed up? He goes, I already know what you're going to say. He said, what? He said, yeah, there are social media icons. Because they create the photo opportunity. We make sure we have Wi-Fi in our parks, and we tell people, post your pictures right now. So within minutes, this was up on Facebook. And you know, Claire's friends started saying, oh, you went there in November. How was it? She goes, it was great. The lines weren't great. We did this and this. She is selling 321 people on Disneyland. It's not about Disney's Facebook page. It's about her tribe. And of course, there's my wife. She only has 58 friends. Poor soul. But you know, we went down to the Grand Canyon, so she posted that. And her friends are saying, oh my gosh, when did you go? Why did you do that? See, it's about her tribe. We're working in Scotland this fall. And she said, hey, has anybody been to Scotland? All of a sudden, there's this conversation going. And then there's me. I have twice as many friends as my wife. I don't know who they are, but no. And so I have that. But, you know, of course, I have to post, you know, yeah, we did Splash Mountain, the manly thing. So between us, you know, we go diving in the Caribbean, we post, and people say, where'd you go diving? Here's the bottom line. That's what you need to do. Because between us, there are 500 friends. But you know what? Half of them are duplicate. All, you know, cousins and aunts and uncles and each other. So that's 250 unique people on Claire, Jane, and my Facebook pages. But you know that reach? I went to Facebook and had them do algorithms. Our little post about going to Disneyland for 3 days reached 1,800 people. And they started engaging in conversation. That is the power of social media. By the way, if I go way back to this, let me go back. Where is it? Come on. I know it's here. You know where I got that? That's at the Orphan Train Museum. Is that cool or what? So you know what my wife did? She took a picture in the Orphan Train Museum, and while we were in the Orphan Train Museum, she posted it to Facebook. That's what you need to do. So now let me go, now it's going to make me go through all those again. So let me just whip through them, because I'm almost done, and I know I told you I'd get you out of here at noon. Find your focus. You can do this. I think you have the incredible assets here. I mean, amazing assets. And I don't say that everywhere. The bones of downtown, the historic buildings, Riverside Park. I mean, you could do amazing things. And you know what? Getting people from 50 miles, most of these people are going to go back home at the end of the day. But you know what? Hey, if you had 176,000 people for the day, if you could do your, what is it, Walula? How do you pronounce it? Weewalla. I still didn't get it right, did I? What? Neewalla.
It's Halloween spelled backwards.
Oh, it's Halloween? Okay, I was going to ask somebody because I can't ever figure out. But you know what? How many people come for that? Biggest event in the state. Can you imagine doing that? Can you imagine? You don't even have to have that many people, but wouldn't it be cool if you had 200 people, visitors, every day in your downtown, 250 days a year? Just 200 people. That is what you have the potential to do. And by the way, This is not that far of a drive. That is incredible. Not many towns. Concordia can't do that. You can. And then make a list of these suggestions. So here's what's going to happen. This is being videotaped. We're going to give you a report. You can make a list. And I think Main Street will come in and say, okay, we're going to take these. Tourism will take these. Chamber will take these. City might take some. And you know what? These are just suggestions. Some of these you may already be working on. But what you have here is amazing, and your potential is incredible. Start with a focus. I love it. A diamond is merely a lump of coal that did well under pressure. It's going to take some champions that can stand the heat when you narrow your focus. And then I just love this quote. I don't know why I like it, but you know, love makes the world go round. So does 5 shots of tequila. What's your point? It's lunchtime. And finally, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. And I'm not just talking about street trees. I'm talking about things you can do in Independence. What you have here really is cool. So here is to the very bright future Independence. And so here's what will happen is because I said I would like to stay for question and answer, but I already said I'd let you out of here at noon, and I wanted to give you as much as I could. And I know that was a lot. So I'm willing to hang around for a few minutes if you have any questions, everything. But thanks so much for spending your whole morning here this morning. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Hello, hello. Thanks everyone for coming. I hope my enthusiasm is catchy. I hope Roger's enthusiasm is catchy. Now you know why I've been so relentless trying to get people here. Stick around for questions and answers, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, we did the whole plan for Rapid City and said, hey, you guys need to do this. So, yeah.
You guys, because I was thinking as you were going through that, you should, you missed all the statues in Rapid and compare those to those here.
But you know what? You know what the problem is in Rapid City? They put statue of Christ and they said that's going to make downtown dry.
Oh, no, it
Doesn't. No. Same here. They're great ambience. They're great to have. They add to the experience, but they're not the reason. Yeah.
No, but you
I usually do a whole case history, but I knew I was going to be short on time.
Well, there was a brought a friend in who's a writer out of Colorado.
Oh,
when you finished the first half, he went, and we were talking about the statues, and you said put up the plaques and tell the story.
Yeah.
I said, ooh, you can put them up, but then at a point when you do something, we take them down, and you said, use writers to tell your stories. I said, we do a contest. and justice. And have, you know, they draw a statue, they gotta go out and they got 30 minutes to like, you know. Exactly. We can create a history. Right, but you don't tell them.
But we didn't know
Let
that.
them tell the story by what they see.
We didn't know that. Yeah. We didn't know there was nothing to see there. I was trying to figure out the guy with the broom. And he's going, it's familiar, but I couldn't go through it. Oh, no, those you can. Those you can. But the ones you have downtown that are not killed, the ones that are. But if they say this comes from a scene in bus stop or whatever.